Good morning, and welcome to Driving Force Radio, where we seek to discover each week what drives today's leaders. On today's show, we are talking with David Hill from Encana Natural Gas. And Kelly, this is going to be a really interesting show. Energy 101, we talk about all things energy, and whether that's domestic, whether that's international, whether that's energy security, or whether that's just our own regional energy production. It is always such a fascinating conversation, and today's going to be no different.
That's right. Today is such an exciting show, and I'm personally thrilled that Encana is on the show because, as you know, I founded the Women in Energy networking group in Colorado, and they've always been a huge supporter of women in energy. And so what it demonstrates is that they support the community, they support the employees within their company, and I'm just thrilled to have them on the show.
Absolutely, and they're doing some really interesting things. Encana Natural Gas is a subsidiary of Encana Corporation, which is a Canadian-owned energy producer, and Encana is really focused on growing the market for North American natural gas. And our guest today is David Hill, the Vice President of Natural Gas Economy Operations here in Denver. He works externally and internally to increase the use of natural gas in the power generation and transportation sectors. Welcome to the show, David.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Well, we are so excited to have you here. So tell us a little bit about Encana. I think listeners know Encana is here, but don't know exactly what it is you do. What is Encana about?
Sure. Our company really was founded about 10 years ago by a merger of two large producers. And so today we produce a little over 3 billion cubic feet of natural gas a day in North America. So we're probably the second largest producer of natural gas in North America. So we drill and complete wells and produce and sell gas into the market.
And can you tell us a little bit more about what your position is in Encana?
Yeah, we're a new group formed a couple years ago when we found, we really began to believe we found too much natural gas. We had this abundant story that you hear a lot in the press. We were part of that story. So our CEO was really thinking about what do we do with all this natural gas? Because right now, we had a supply-demand balance. With a lot of natural gas, we're going to see the price come down. So what are the new uses we can find for natural gas in North America? So they created a team, which I'm part of. In the early part of it, we began to study the markets in North America to look at what are the new uses. How can we increase the use of natural gas here? So we studied power generation, industrial uses of natural gas, and transportation. Can we really use natural gas in our engines as a transportation fuel? So that team came together to study that and come about advocating and talking about using natural gas. And then from there, we actually started using it in our own operations. Can we use it in our trucks? We're going to ask people to do this. Why not do it ourselves first?
Right, yeah.
So we began that journey, if you will, as a large fleet. We have about 1,500 vehicles in North America, and we're about a third of the way through converting those vehicles to natural gas. And when we started doing that, we came across what everybody asks, well, where do I get my fuel?
Right.
Where are these stations? Are they public access? So in Colorado, we have several field offices, but there's no stations. So we had to begin to look at evaluating building CNG stations, compressed natural gas. So we did that, so to support our fleet, and then we made some of those public access. And then we looked at our supply chain, all the people that come out to our well sites every day in trucks and cars and pickups and Class 8 trucks. Can they convert to natural gas? So we began to explore that and work with our vendors to convert. So some of our vendors are now doing that. And where are they going to get the fuel?
Right.
So we had to explore that as well. So now we're building compressed natural gas stations for our fleets and our supply chain, as well as liquefied natural gas stations. And then the third piece we looked at was what about our own operations? We consume a lot of diesel in drilling and completing natural gas wells and oil wells. So we began that journey as well, looking at our own uses of fuel. So today we have about 50% of our drilling rigs using natural gas as a fuel instead of diesel. And also our pressure pumping services, we're exploring ways to convert those engines out there that pump.
So, David, I guess this is really a two-part question based on what you were just talking about. Talk a little bit about the differences between CNG and LNG, because I think listeners sometimes mix it up or don't quite understand. And then talk about what it takes to build infrastructure like you're talking about.
Sure, yeah. It's really important to understand the differences of compressed natural gas and liquefied natural gas. The the industry, the natural gas vehicle industry, is really centered around compressed natural gas. So we take natural gas at ambient pressure and temperature and really simply compress it up into a gas and put it on board the vehicle in a tank. And those tanks are Department of Transportation certified, and they're typically stored at 3,600 psi, pounds per square inch. So it's a cylinder full of natural gas that really equates to anywhere from 5 to 20 gallons equivalent of gasoline on the vehicle.
Okay.
These tanks are larger than our gasoline tanks. The fuel density of natural gas is about 20% that of gasoline. So it takes up almost 4 times as much space to get the same amount of fuel on board. So that's compressed natural gas. Really good for light duty, cars and pickup trucks, as well as transit buses and refuse trucks, return to base type of vehicles. It's a really good substitution for gasoline. When we go into our Class 8 tractors and our larger fuel consuming vehicles that have to store more fuel on board, putting that much compressed natural gas on board is hard. It takes up a lot of space, and it begins to add up a lot of weight to the vehicle. So now comes around liquefied natural gas, where we simply reduce the temperature of the natural gas from, again, its ambient state down to about minus a negative 260 degrees. And it just changes phase. It goes from a gas to a liquid. So we store it on our vehicles in a thermos bottle. Pretty simple, simply elegant. So it's a thermos bottle that keeps that liquid cold, and so we can store twice as much fuel on board as CNG. So, yeah, so it's a better way to put more fuel on board a vehicle with less weight. So that's typically used in our Class 8 trucks that run up and down the highway, and we also are using that on our drilling rigs and some of our pressure pumping services. That's the fuel that's used there. And then we're just now starting to fuel locomotives. So you think about locomotives burn diesel and consume a large amount of fuel. So liquefied natural gas is a way to store more fuel on board. So there's a test going on in Canada today with CN Rail that we're providing liquefied natural gas to them to fuel their locomotives to test that technology. Mining trucks work as well, and we're seeing a lot more marine vessels, ships. Ferries are really a good application. Internationally, there's 50 ferries running with liquefied natural gas, and in the U.S., there's several ferry companies in the Northwest and the Northeast really evaluating using natural gas in their operations. So we got compressed natural gas, just simply compress it up, and then we liquefy it, low temperature, and store it in a thermos bottle, and bring it out and fill the engine with that fuel.
So now we understand the differences between CNG and LNG. How do you get it?
Yeah.
It's not, you were talking about this earlier, that you're looking at that infrastructure and building out that infrastructure, but what does that look like, and what are some of those challenges and some of those opportunities of building infrastructure for natural gas support here in the Rockies as well as the country?
Sure, yeah. So for compressed natural gas, a station, we're really looking at, we in Encana and the industry, look at co-locating natural gas stations with existing gas stations, gasoline stations, or truck stops. That's the best way, the best synergy is to co-locate them. So when you're coming in to fill up with gasoline, you could also fill up with natural gas, whether it's liquefied natural gas or compressed natural gas. Because we're using compression versus simply a pump to pump a liquid fuel, it's more expensive. So a CNG station can be anywhere from $750,000 up to $2 million to put that in place. And
just one pump, or like a whole island?
A whole island, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so you'd put an island in that could have 2 or 3 dispensers. So a one dispenser, just fill up one vehicle at a time, might be a little less than $1 million. And then if you want to put a multi-lane fueling station, it could be up to $3 million. And that doesn't include the land, so you need to have that land on top of it. So it's a very expensive proposition.
Yeah.
So that's one of our challenges. So to have a payout, to actually get your money back from that investment, you need a lot of throughput.
Yeah.
Right.
So you need a lot of vehicles coming through, or vehicles that use a lot of fuel initially. So stations aren't being built just randomly and because they're not going to be used, and the investor wouldn't get his money back. So what we find to overcome that challenge is to work with fleets first. Fleets consume a lot of fuel on a per unit basis, and typically they drive a route that comes back to base, or they don't get off their route very often. So fleets become what's called an anchor for these stations, an anchor tenant. And so you can put it behind the fence and make it a private station, or you can put it outside the fence or at a corner and make it a public access. And then that's what we're doing. We're trying to make most of our stations public access to give the communities the option, the choice to have this fuel if they want to in their vehicle. And then you think about that in capital investment, and then the vehicles. There's not a lot of choices for consumers. There's more choices for fleets, but less choices for you and I as a consumer right now. So we're working on that as well, trying to get more choices out there for the fleets and the consumers.
Well, and as you're talking about this, a number of things strike me about sort of our Rocky Mountain region, such a big oil and gas region, and in particular gas. It seems like so many benefits to the consumer. One, that you're keeping these you're creating natural gas markets right here. One, you're reducing emissions by converting fleet vehicles, especially with the oil and gas operations, by converting that equipment. And I know that there's been tremendous advances in the compression engines and all of those, to like no NOx emissions, all of these things. And so, can you just talk a little bit about how does this impact the consumer in a positive way?
Yeah. I mean, I think first is Colorado as an example. We produce about 4.3 billion cubic feet of gas a day in the state of Colorado.
4.3 billion
cubic feet. Yeah. And so we're the sixth largest state, number 6 in the country in production. Most of that gas leaves the state. We only consume about 1.7 billion cubic feet a day in our homes, in our industrial complexes, as well as generating electricity. So we are a net exporter of natural gas. So if we keep that gas in the state, we can generate more jobs by all the different ways to use that natural gas in the state, and more taxes, more revenues for the counties, the cities, and the state. So there's a net benefit right there. More jobs. So, and the second, as you alluded to, was the environmental impact. In Colorado, in Denver, we're a non-attainment area for our particulate matter and our ozone. So if we use natural gas, we actually have less particulate matter coming out of our engines. We have less NOx, as you suggested, and we also have less volatile organic carbon. And those are precursors to the ozone that we see. So we look at California, all their transit buses and refuse trucks are all natural gas. They're trying to clean up the Los Angeles basin. So they're seeing great success with that. Wow. And so natural gases can really benefit us environmentally here, right on the Front Range with our ozone, as we begin to transition our fleets to natural gas. And then the other is the economic benefit. It's a lower cost. Today oil is trading in the $90 a barrel range, and natural gas is trading less than $4 at MMBTU, or 1,000 standard cubic feet. So there's quite what we call a spread between the price of oil and natural gas. It's beyond this spread of the energy. The energy trades at 6 to 1. An energy equivalent is what it should trade at. And today it's trading at 25 to 1. So natural gas is a lower cost fuel today. So we're seeing it 20 to 35% cheaper than gasoline and diesel at the pump today. So it's a good value proposition for economics as well.
Sure. Well, and we talked too, you mentioned this, but obviously fleet vehicles are those first adopters, those early adopters of these natural gas solutions. But why are there less choices in vehicles? Well, what are those trends that are making it where it's that cool thing to have a natural gas vehicle or a clean vehicle, but there really aren't a whole lot of solutions? What are the ways that Encana is working with the industries in vehicle production and things like that to get this out there? Because obviously, if we're a huge producer at 4.3 billion cubic feet a day, it's cheaper, and we're hovering around $3 a gallon again. Why can't we get more critical mass in this area?
Yeah, that's a great question. One is a lot of people don't know about it. That's the first part. As consumers and fleets, they just don't know they have a choice. They think they have to use gasoline or diesel in their operations. They don't know about that. So part of our program is really getting the message out and letting them know they have a choice. When we do go talk to our auto manufacturers in Detroit, we've been to talk to GM and Ford and Chrysler about the need for more American-produced vehicles that have alternative fuels. We need more choices for consumers and fleets. We've been talking to them about almost 2.5 years. And part of that is what they tell us is they need to hear from the customer that they want this. They're willing to build it. They can build it. It's not that hard. So they're looking for the market pool, you know. So they don't want to build something that no one buys. So what we have done as a community of producers is tell them the type of vehicle we want. So we went to the 3 auto manufacturers and said we want a 3/4 ton pickup truck. We'd like it bi-fuel that could use natural gas or gasoline, because there's not a lot of infrastructure, so you can actually build a vehicle that can run on gasoline, and you can push a button, simply push a button, and it runs on natural gas, or vice versa. It starts up on natural gas. If you run out of natural gas, it automatically switches to gasoline, and you don't know the difference. You wouldn't know what fuel it's running on. So we asked them for a bi-fuel vehicle pickup truck, and that was 4-wheel drive, extended cab, and this is what we use in our operations. And so several of them listened to us. So today, you can order from your dealer at Chrysler a Dodge 2500 heavy-duty bi-fuel pickup truck from the OEM that's fully warranted, fully supported. And then the same with GM products. We can buy a Chevy and a GMC 2500 3/4 ton pickup truck from your dealer. You can order that, and that'll be fully warranted and supported from your dealership. And Ford is working their way there. They're looking at the F-250. They've taken a different route where there's companies, and there's several of these in Colorado, that'll take a vehicle and simply upfit it with a system on top of the gasoline system. And that's how we've been doing it until this year. So now we can finally order vehicles from the dealership. So we're really excited, and now that's being offered for others. So the part of that equation is we got to buy them.
Yeah.
So our manufacturers know that they're there, that there's a market pool.
But at least there's this movement up the curve, up the bell curve towards adoption, and getting to that next level of gaining critical mass in this area. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, the other vehicle you can get, you know, is the Honda Civic, natural gas. That's been around for 8 years. Mainly been sold as fleet vehicles, but in 2012 they modified the consumer vehicle for natural gas to make it more appealing, offer a few more options for you and I. And so that vehicle's out there today. And we have 8 of those running in our fleet in Denver and also in Texas, the Honda Civics. And that's a dedicated compressed natural gas vehicle. So there's more coming. We're seeing more and more coming, and more options for us, but it's a little slower than we'd like.
Well, it's interesting to me because so I have kids in elementary school, and just the other day, Mom stopped me and she said, "What do you feel about the production of natural gas?" And obviously, she knew my background. It wasn't just a random question. And I said, you know, we need it. And we have the regulations to protect against impact to our environment, and so when I look at this transition, and I'm a huge supporter, and we've talked about this on the show a long time, of this transition in our transportation industry, that I really think that we need to transition away from gasoline and consider alternative choices. So, but when I look at the chain, I see a lot of areas of anxiety. One is production, one is like Jan and I talk about, we need cars that carry a lot of equipment, chairs to sporting events and all of that stuff.
Kids in car seats.
Yeah, we need. And that's something I would have taken into account before I had kids. And so I just see a number of areas of anxiety along the sort of the supply chain. How is Encana looking at all of those? Are you looking at all of those along the chain, and what could we do to get the word out to address some of those points?
Well, absolutely. There is, again, a lot of it is just getting good information out. So people are make them informed. They can make their own choices and their own determinations with the right information. So from a sense of the production side of natural gas and oil and gas in this country, you know, it's safe and responsible development. We've been doing it for I'll say over 100 years in this country. So we can do it. We have been doing it. It's letting people know what we do. And at our state level, the states really do have good rules and regulations, and Colorado leads that across the nation. So they've been very proactive, protecting the environment and protecting us as consumers that live in our state. So we all enjoy the outdoors. I do too, and I want to make sure I continue to enjoy the outdoors. So getting that information out, letting people know, kind of getting over the hysteria. You know, and putting the facts out there and letting people think about that and work on that. And then it's letting them know that natural gas is around you every day. You know, it's in our homes. You know, we cook with it, we heat with it, we heat our water with it. So we use it every day, and we're not uncomfortable with that. So why should we be uncomfortable with increasing the use of natural gas, throughout our communities, whether it's in power generation. You mentioned school buses. They're a great application for alternative fuels. Propane is a great fuel for school buses, and natural gas is as well. Those school buses drive a route and come back, and all of our kids are in them. So why not have a cleaner fuel in there for school buses? So just letting people know that it's here, it's viable, it's sustainable, and it's economic, and it's a good fuel.
And is there the potential, what about looking at, instead of building out or in conjunction with building out the infrastructure, the pumping infrastructure, what about these technologies that you can put in your home and pump your own compressed natural gas?
Fueling, yeah.
Are those, that seems like a good option. I think we'd be to school on time a lot more often if I had that in my house. It's a really good question. Home fueling for our vehicles, I think, is a trend that's going to come. Whether we have an electric vehicle and we plug in overnight, we have electricity in our homes, and we also have natural gas in our homes. So why not plug into our natural gas line and fuel up overnight? So we're seeing that happening today. So there's a home fueler available on the market where you can install it, put it in your garage. It's code standards, right, like an appliance, and you simply plug in. The problem is today it's expensive. So we as an industry are working, and as well as our federal government, the Department of Energy, is working on new home fueling appliances that are lower cost, that we can have it simply installed and plug in. So I think that's going to be kind of a trend of the future, as we may be driving past gasoline stations on the corner, and and those will be emergency fill-ups. Maybe fleets use those, but for you and I, whether we have an electric vehicle or a hybrid electric vehicle or a hybrid natural gas vehicle that is electric and natural gas, there's no reason we can't have a vehicle that's electric and natural gas. Why are we using gasoline in a hybrid vehicle? Why don't we use an alternative fuel? It makes perfect sense to me. Electrification is a good way to go, but why not use our domestically produced fuels as the other fuel in the electric vehicle? That is very interesting. We talk about it as either electric or natural gas. We've never talked about it as a combination of the two.
If you look at us as consumers, change is tough for us.
Oh, it's very tough.
You talked about, I have 4 kids, I have to have a van. I don't want to lose the space in my van to the fuel. So I want something that's integrated into my vehicle, that the transition to another fuel is seamless to you and I. That's where we have to get to. So I think hybrid vehicles, really plug-in hybrids that use electric and an alternative fuel are going to be what we're looking for as consumers.
Well, David, I want to come back to some stuff that you talked about around infrastructure before we go to break. I know Encana's here in Denver, and a lot of this work is being done here in the Colorado region. But are you reaching outside of our borders? Are you working in these other states here in the Rockies? And then how many stations, what kind of infrastructure is Encana running right now?
Yeah. So we're really reaching out across North America. So Encana is a founding member of America's Natural Gas Alliance, and I'm actually the chairperson of their Natural Gas Vehicle Committee. I'm also vice chairman of the U.S. Natural Gas NGV America, Natural Gas Vehicles for America. So I'm the vice chairman of that. So we have, through those committees and those organizations, definitely a broad reach across North America, talking to fleets and manufacturers about this solution. From Encana's perspective, we're definitely involved in everywhere we operate. We're looking at putting natural gas stations in and converting our fleet across our operations. So that's Louisiana, Texas, Wyoming, Colorado, all the way up into Alberta and into British Columbia. So today we have 6 natural gas CNG fueling stations. 4 of those are public access. We're building 2 more this year. One will be in Parachute. We have a large office in Parachute, so we're putting one right there. And we also have a permanent LNG station, a fixed LNG station in Louisiana, fueling some of our supply chain. And we've kind of gone beyond that, as these fixed stations require a lot of throughput. So we've redesigned what's called a mobile fueling station. We call it MFS for short. We've got to have acronyms, right? So
you have to.
So this is actually a fueling station on wheels. And we put it on the back of a tractor trailer, and we can take it out to a location, set it down, and it can fill up trucks right there.
Oh, that's interesting.
So that helps fleets get started. And
Sure.
It's a low-cost solution for them and for us as a fuel provider to get them kick-started. So we have, I think right now we have 10 of those in operation in North America.
Wow.
So that's for the trucks. And we took that the next step and created a system. We can actually take LNG out to a site and vaporize it, put it back into a gas state, and feed it into engines or into industrial uses for power, or local distribution companies or utilities could, if they have a service disruption and they have to turn the tap off, on the other side we can pull this up and provide natural gas to a building or to a pipeline. So
It's awesome.
Interesting, yeah.
Well, we have to run to break, but if you want to learn more, you can go to Encana.com. And when we come back, we'll have more with Kelly De La Torre of Rapid Tech Transit and David Hill, the Vice President of Natural Gas Economy Operations at Encana Corporation. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.